YouTube land, it is Asenva here for another official Junky Spot review. Today's doll that I will be showcasing is the 60 centimeter doll Leaves Anthony. So to start you off, let me go ahead and give you guys some basic measurements for this guy right here. He is 60 centimeters in height. His head circumference is 24 centimeters. He has a chest cavity of 25 centimeters. We got a waist at 20 centimeters, hips at 25.5. The wigs that he'll be using is going to be your standard SD wigs, which are 8 to 9 inch wigs, and his eyes will be in the 16 millimeter range. There's actually a lot of really cool things I would love to show you guys about this doll Leaves SD boy, but I will show you that later on in the film. But for now, let me go ahead and start doing the review, and we'll start breaking him down piece by piece because he's got some very interesting things to show you. So our head cap is magnetic. Inside you will see the DS for doll Leaves. We have two magnets, one at the top where his forehead is and one at the base where the back of his head is. They will slip on very easily and snap together, and they come off very easily. Inside of the head here, you will see our S-hook here. It does have a crevice for the S-hook to sit in the locked position, and when you pull it up, it will go facing this way so you can take the head off. Really, really nice. It actually gives you a lot of space for when you do take it off, so you can see from here to here. That's all for when you take it off. It'll just slip right through there. So no worries, your S-hook will come off safely. So as far as range of motion goes for the head, he can turn from left and right. He does have some movement going up and some movement going down. That's our extent right there. Up and down. I imagine with swaying he probably could hold this a lot better, but for now that's pretty much what he can do. He can tilt from side to side just a tad bit, and once again with swaying I believe he'd probably be able to hold it to this extent better. Our arms are very interesting, which I will go ahead and go into more depth about. Everything holds very nicely into place without having to worry about swaying. And let's go ahead and take a look closer inside of our shoulder joint. So it's a pretty basic socket, nothing too crazy, but I mean it holds it really nicely. The interesting part is going to be our elbow. Our elbow is actually comprised of two inner parts. It has your traditional peanut looking shape here, but then it has this additional piece of resin right here that almost is very similar to, I don't know how to word it other than the coined phrase that everyone talks about, which is the butt flaps that are used down here as well. So they have that very similar piece up here where the elbows are located. And when you take the arm apart or you separate it, you can see that it actually has ridges in this floating part which can tuck into here. That is designed to help him lock his elbow into place a lot better, and it won't move around or fly at you. So everything when he does his movements is pretty much securely locked into place. So this is his arm bent with all the pieces snapping where they can. We have another snap here, a snap here. So it's actually really interesting. This is one of the first that I've actually seen, but I do know that they have dolls that do have these extra pieces of resin here. And it just so happens to be that this boy right here, he has those. He has them here, and like I mentioned before, he has them down to where his thighs are as well. And that's just additional support to help movement and whatnot. And you can see here, this is some more peg pieces inside of the elbow that help him maintain those poses. So it has these two pieces of resin here that will go into those two holes there. Now his hands. His hands are something that's very interesting to me because I will show you my other boy's hands. He has very manly hands. They are actually bigger compared to some of my other boys. But if you're looking at it in comparison with his face, it is pretty much proportional. So look at that. There we go. Look at that. Proportioned. And might I add how awesome they are. They are really nice looking hands. So our wrist piece here is a ball socket. You can see that it is just a floating ball here. The cool thing is it does have those extra pieces of resin located here as well that fits with the notches that are there. So very, very awesome hands. I imagine if you do ever get some different hands, it's pretty easy to switch out since it's just that one ball joint here and then the hand. Excellent range of motion for the hands. I love the dolls that have the ball sockets here because they can just do so much movement with their hands. So our chest cavity, which is actually pretty big, a very nice man size. He is sculpted like with a semi-muscular body. It's not like a bam six-pack in your face, but it's still really nicely detailed, and as you can see, they do actually have some definition here, and you can see some of the definition here for the ribs as well. Our centerpiece, it can move from side to side. It can move forward, and the clever thing about this is that if you pull it apart, you can see that it has this lip that it is sitting on, and that's how he's slouching forward. And if you put it back, it goes back to the straight position. Another interesting fun fact is when you get down here towards the lower part of the waist, he has a peg there, and inside of the bottom part of the hips and waist area, it has these these five holes down here, in which I'd imagine was created so you could go ahead and it can go from hole, like little hole to kind of, you know, help him keep his poses. It moves, but it doesn't move dramatically different. I mean, it can twist it. It can twist his side like this from here to here, and it'll sit in that piece. So I know there's some other dolls out there in the dolly realm that have this similar piece of resin in the thigh joint area. I'm mentioning it in the film as a butt flap, but I've heard other people just recently talking to them call it a hip cup or a thigh joint cup. I don't know what the scientific name is for it, people, but it's this extra piece of resin that is located down here. It really does help with mobility and kind of adds some traction to it. It's really nice. I guess it's just a thing for mobility, peeps. I mean, it's really interesting, and it's really cool to get to see one, and that's all it is. It's just really just an extra piece of resin here that's located above the thigh joint right here. So his leg, it can move inward and outward, like so. So moving down to the actual first part of our thigh joint right here, if you separate it, you will see something super magical. So right there, you will see two notches. Those notches are for extra positions that you can put him into, similar to what our doll zone friends have. This is very similar to that same joint that they have down there, or not really a joint, but extra crevice or whatever you want to call it. And I will go ahead and show you what that does right now. When he's sitting, it gives it extra height. It's pulling his leg closer towards his center here, which is a cool little feature to have. It leaves open a lot of possibilities for posing in pictures and whatnot, and it's just super cool. So moving down to our knees, very similar to our elbows, in which we do have this extra resin flap here that, like I mentioned before, helps with mobility, helps locking in joints, and is just overall pretty awesome and pretty cool to have. He does have, just like the rest of him, double jointed capabilities, and when it comes to the knees, that's very cool to have. So right here you'll see some of the indentions there that help him lock his knees into place, and you can see the different levels that he can go. At the bottom here, you can see that extra piece of resin that pops out there. That's to go ahead and meet in these different parts of our knee piece here. And once again, you see the two pegs of resin here and the holes that they match with, which is also for further stability and just overall awesomeness. Going down to our feet, which are nicely sculpted, he does have a ball socket down here as well. And I'm going to show you a cool secret surprise that they actually have inside of our legs. You no longer have to get confused on which is your right leg and your left leg, because they have etched it into the resin. This is the right leg, so there is an R in there. And this is our left, and there's an L there. The foot itself has a hook in which the S hook hooks into, and the extra piece of resin there that fits into that crevice there that locks his foot into place. So doing a bit of a doll comparison here in sizes, on my left here I have my Resin Soul Gang, on the right is the doll Leaves Anthony. You can see there is a height difference between the two, and let me go ahead and show you some other cool key differences between these two boys. Like I mentioned before, the doll Leaves boys have really manly hands, but they are proportionate to their bodies. But if you look at it compared to another boy, they are different, as you can see. So I thought that was a pretty interesting difference between the Doll Leaves SD boys in comparison with some other SD boys from different companies. And like I mentioned before, the chest cavity is also very interesting compared to some of our SD models from other companies. My Resin Soul gang here is extremely ripped and very, like, ripped. And as you can see, the cavity that he has is a lot thinner than this guy right here. So I mean, it really just boils down to what kind of character you're looking for, what kind of build, and Doll Leaves does actually put forth a very, very cool looking guy and very interesting overall. So just to throw some more comparisons in there, on the right here is our featured doll, our SD Anthony. On the left is the MSD boy. He is at 42 centimeters. I thought it was super interesting, and I just wanted to go ahead and show you guys that in case you were wondering what the difference was visually from an MSD from Doll Leaves to an SD from Doll Leaves. So I hope this helped anyone that was curious about the Doll Leaves SD boys. If you want to know more about this doll and some other cool dolly products, please feel free to visit the Junky Spot website. You can go to www.junkyspot.com. Hope you guys have an awesome day. Bye!